anytime I get bummed out about the trek, I always just remember, like, what else would you be doing?
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you gonna go fucking to night school to become an accountant? No. You know, this is what you do. Like, you've known your whole life you wanted to fucking do it. And I've just adopted the mantra of the pain is the best part. The pain is the fuel. The pain is everything. Comedy's the best when it sucks. That's like, you know, and then when it's great, it's just fucking like, oh, I feel like the puzzle master. And when it's shitty, it's like, the way. How was your style in the beginning? Were you as like, kind of like off the wall? Cause I gotta, of all the comics in Denver, you have the most kind of like, I don't know, cerebral, like kind of like bouncy funhouse mirror style that I don't even know how to describe to people.
What helped me starting out is that I was in like a pretty small scene of just like once I developed friendships in it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was just entertaining my buddies, you know?
Mm. Like in the open mic scene?
Yeah.
Wow.
In Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so I would start doing like just one-off shit, you know, like go up that night and do this elaborate thing that I had, you know, written that afternoon, right? And having no stakes to it because I was just trying to make my friends laugh, you know? But then that cemented like a bit of just like a complete throw it at the wall kind of mentality toward it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because whatever, I'll go up next week, you know what I mean?
Right.
And there were only 3 mics in that whole city. So, you know, what's it matter? And plus it was the same audience every week.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to bore them by doing the same old jokes that I've been doing, you know? So I at least wanted to have like 2 new minutes, you know, every week. And plus I had 5 days between the run of 3 mics before, like, to prepare. You know what I mean?
Right. That's like, probably more special. It's like, literally, it's like, I can't wait until Thursday gets here, opposed to like,
exactly.
I have to go out to, like, you know, you're a what, 6-7 night a week guy?
6 nights a week when I'm hustling, and probably, I don't know, 10 to 12 sets a week, you know?
Yeah, that's, I measure myself against dudes like you, Jeff Stonick, obviously Crawford, you know, like the legend of Crawford.
I mean, like seeing like people like after they do 15 minutes at a showcase, you know, and then them being like, yeah, I'm hitting the next mic, you know, and you're just like, no, you did it tonight. You killed. Are you going to go there and bomb?
All right.
You know? Yeah. But that's what you do. You know, honestly, even after a good set, you need a fucking kick in the ass, you know, of struggling back at Lions Lair or something, you know?
The pain, it's the fuel.
Yeah, so, all right, I mean, based off of that, do you feel like you're doing a character on stage?
No. In fact, I feel like I'm being super, super real, but I'm being myself, like, a lot, but then it's like, it's the bad me. It's like the low energy, not excited, like rote. And then you'll have those moments where something clicks and you're just in flow state, and it's like, oh, there it is.
Taking those habits or idiosyncrasies and just dialing them up just like 3 degrees, you know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, like I don't feel like I do a character on stage, but I'm definitely like harnessing a energy, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I would say it's like it's you, but like that's what I said. It's like it's the wrong me. It's like I'm being authentic, but like it's the wrong gear. So if you can find that, like you really are that guy when you're in the right moment and you're making your friends laugh and being goofy, and that really is you. So it's not a character, but it is a persona, I guess. Right,
or you're just shutting down the part of you that has the social mores of doing things a particular way.
Yes.
And but that's the great part of it being on stage is you get that pass. You know, you don't have a complete hall pass to do whatever you want. But if you start doing it, then people will give you that pass, you know, because you can almost cast it off as a character. You're trying to serve the room at that time. You know what I mean? Right.
That one of the biggest lesson I ever got in that kind of concept is when I was hosting the mic with Luis Martinez over there.
Oh yeah,
at
over
5280
bar.
Yes, yes. There's like a gear that you can be in where you can say anything. You literally can say anything. And I remember the day specifically. I'm sitting outside smoking pot. Luis rolls up and he's like showing me his fist. He's like, dude, I'm bleeding. He's like, I punched this girl. And I'm like, what? You punched? He's like, yeah, it was this lesbian chick, and she started punching me. I thought she was a dude, and I started punching, you know. And I was like, this is the craziest story ever. He's like, I'm going to tell it on stage tonight. I mean, his hand is bleeding, you know. He's like, I just came from there. It's like, once you get to know Luis, you realize, like, oh, no, he's not lying.
Oh, no, yeah.
So he goes up on stage, and there's, like, the random, you know, bar hags that are all around the fucking... the 5280 tavern. And so it goes up and he tells the story and it's getting huge laughs. These women are all laughing at fucking like, I'm a girl. And, you know, and he's punching this woman and he's beating her up and they're laughing and having a gale time. And there's like, oh man, Luis, what a crazy guy. And they don't know him. They're just like, oh man, this guy's nuts. So I go up and we're co-hosting and I'm just like, man, can you believe that shit? Can you believe Luis punched a broad? And these three women in the front, they go, broad.
You're like, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Just reporting.
So Luis could physically assault a woman, and they're okay with it. I can't call her a broad. And that was very insightful. I was like, okay, like it's because of his just authenticity.
Without fail, if I go up there 60%, I'm not going to have a good time. And they're not going to have a good time. But if you amp that up, then, you know, being fine with silence is like key, you know? It's like if they don't laugh at a particular thing, don't let that visually, like, be registered in your face. And that's the risk you run into if you, I feel like I do this sometimes where it's really leaning into something, you know, which can be a very effective tool when it goes right, you know? Yeah. But if you really lean into something and it doesn't go right, then you end up looking like, you know, tilting the top hat. You know what I mean?
Right.
It feels very desperate or whatever. So it's like finding the line between desperation and confidence. But at the same time, I guess what I see a lot of like new open micers trying to do is they're trying to look really cool on stage because that's a natural thing to do if you are public speaking, right? Yes. Is you want to look cool and in control. But all of the comedy comes from a place of vulnerability and overcorrection. So like all the weird, like anxious vibes of an audience watching a person failing, that's where all the comedy comes from. At least in what I try to do. That's where I try to pull, that's the energy I try to pull from. That like little, the separation between them being like, is he aware what he's doing? Oh, he is aware of what he's doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then just like pushing and pulling between that, right? Yeah. Where it's like almost like, should I feel bad for him? Oh, it's been there the whole time. Does that make sense?
No, of course. Yeah, that's like, part of the surprise.
Right, yeah. And then, but the problem with that actually particular style, right, is once you have fooled people 5 times, they're not going to be fooled a 6th. You know what I mean?
And how do you deal with that?
I'm getting better at it just in terms of like joke placement and pacing. Like say I'm doing like a 30-minute set or something, you know? Is like I've just had to like rearrange stuff and like what hits hard early, what savers do I have, and stuff like that. But that is a problem I hit around the 20-minute mark, you know? It's like, you've tricked us this many times, we're not going to allow you to trick us again, you know? So right now, my solution is just, after that 20-minute mark, just do, you know, confident material. And I have like a closer that's a favored generally, you know, 90% of the time. But that is the problem I have as I'm extending into longer sets, you know? When I started, a lot of what I was pulling from was bad open mic comedy. You know what I mean?
Yes, of course.
So like, if I can synthesize that strange feeling that you get in an open mic where people are half listening and almost like kicking the door guerrilla style, you know, in that context, right? Mm-hmm. But then if you start doing like longer sets and stuff, or say you're like featuring for someone that's actually like really good, and that's the comedy you start seeing in like these like good situations of comedy, when comedy is going right instead of just being forced on people in a bar, you know? The problem is, where do you pull, if my initial, if the initial tropes I was pulling from is comedy in a bad circumstance and trying to subvert that, how do you do that when what I'm consuming more now is actually people who are competent at their job? You know what I mean? So I'm trying to like bridge that gap of, number one, not setting up the next person for failure. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Because I want to have an attitude of, you should be confident that you made a good decision to come out to this thing that you may have paid for tonight, you know? That's the advantage of scene comedy, right? Is that you always have to be on your toes of like, what is getting played out? What is getting, you know, like, in what ways are you coasting, just based off your reputation or the fact that people have a context to you and why you think that's funny, you know? So that's the trap you fall in with open mics and playing to the same crowds all the time. But that also encourages you to keep bringing new stuff, because, you know, a lot of people say you shouldn't play to the like back of the room because you need to be catering to the audience in front of you. However, at this stage in, you know, like our, you know, careers or whatever, 100% of the bookings come from playing to the back of the room. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So like, I don't know if it develops the best habits and breeds the most like recipe for success or whatever. But, there is something to, you know, like the people that are watching you night after night know when you're phoning it in. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. And
trying to keep on your toes in that way. If you get laughs on the general whole thing, you can always cater that to, you can always simplify it. It's easier to simplify than to make it more complex, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, the reason that it's the Larry the Cable Guy was playing arenas, you know, it's like he has rapid fire, very simple jokes, you know, and I don't care who you are, that's funny. So if it bombs, he has catchphrase to keep it going. You know, this is kind of a tangent, but I've never told anyone else this, so it's just in my brain, is I watched, I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, where Slipknot's from. So I always, I grew up like wanting to be a thrash metal musician, just kind of coincidentally. And then these guys who were like a local band end up becoming the biggest metal band on earth. I kind of was like, okay, well, why did that happen? I'm always just fascinated. And YouTube, once again, offers you just random documentaries and shit. And I watched some Slipknot thing, and the main guy, fucking Sean Cran fucking is like the architect behind the thing. And he said something that made it all click as far as all like the big acts go. And he said, what I pounded into the other guys' heads from day one is that we're a lifestyle band. So it's like you're the family. It's like ICP. You know, they have names for their fans. They're the maggots.
Sure.
You know, the juggalos. Like everywhere, you got to be in the clique. And so from day one, they were selling all the merch at rock bottom prices. Get them in the shit. Get them doing this. Have the fucking thing. And it made me realize, like, oh, that's what all the other things are. That's what Jeff Foxworthy, lifestyle comic.
Right.
You know, all like any big thing, Sebastian, lifestyle comic. It's like Italian family guy.
Stanhope for sure.
Yes, exactly.
Stanhope's like, I mean, of course he's not peddling merch relentlessly, but still, like, those people connect because they're like, I'm a scumbag, he's a scumbag too, you know?
Right. Because there's even a part of me who like thinks Stanhope's a god, but at the same time, as like a man, it's like, take it easy, you know? Like, you don't really have to be this dude, man.
Yeah.
Come on. No, same thing
sure, but that's a more mature Stanhope fan perspective, you know?
Yeah.
For the general consuming audience for him, they're going to him to have their, opinions expressed like eloquently, you know? They're like drunk opinions.
I know. I thought about this the other day, how like, you remember with the Man Show when Adam and Jimmy left, Joe Rogan and Doug Stanhope replaced them.
Yeah.
And so now here we are, like the two douchebags that replaced the Man Show, who I remember despising, end up being like the positive and the negative poles on like the comedy battery, you know. Stanhope is such a negative force.
Stanhope has completely embraced entropy.
Yes.
and Joe Rogan is trying with all his might to reverse it. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting that you bring that up because, you know, you have to have some sort of underlying connector that makes people not only enjoy what you do, but want to live what you do. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's a hard leap to make, you know? Like, once you understand like how jokes work and how to tell a joke, you know, that's only the first part to actually making yourself make yourself culturally relevant. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, because essentially what people are wanting to do is to abide by your philosophy. You know what I mean?
You know what I find fascinating is how many of people's favorite stand-ups, like, who's your favorite stand-up? They'll name you a bunch of people. It's like, you ever seen their stand-up? And they're like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like, a big one is always Duncan Trussell. People are like, that's my guy. It's like, oh, you ever heard? Because unless you've seen him live, he's not on the internet. You can't find his stand-up anywhere. So so many people love Duncan. It's like, yeah, it's my favorite stand-up. It's like, that's your favorite podcaster, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even, because I was one of those guys. I fucking love Duncan Trussell.
It's extended beyond their stage persona. It's like, yeah, that's their podcaster personality. I mean, honestly, watching stand-up is like, you have to have an attention span, you know? Like, as much as I love jokes, I find myself wafting in and out of attention to stand-up, you know?
Of course.
Like, it's really crazy that many people go to support that much of a long-term reward art form, because you're just listening to a person talk. You know, you got to make that as interesting as possible. But like, honestly, like, I'd be at Mutiny's open mic, and you know, the thing about Mutiny is, like, initially, actually, that was one of the mics that made me feel like I made the most progress, was Mutiny and Lions Lair, for two separate reasons.
Okay.
And Mutiny is because there is virtually no one there, you know?
Yes.
And so you got to do your jokes regardless, right? You got to fill that time regardless of who is in the room and whether they are paying attention or not, you know? And with Lion's Lair is like people are actively trying to not listen to you on stage, you know? So trying to command the room in that way. And a few instances of turning both of those audiences, you know, were very beneficial moments on learning how to like manage a room, you know. Like earlier you were talking about Larry the Cable Guy, right? Mm-hmm. Where he has like, I don't care who you are, that's funny right there, you know.
Yes.
And like that's just a very like on the nose example of having like tool belt crowd working, crowd management techniques, you know?
When it also can't be understated, it's not like the, you know, I don't care who you are. That's funny. It's, I don't care who you are. That's funny. It's like, he's like, once again, he's fully committing. He's like oblivious. It's almost like the funniness is how oblivious he is.
Right.
Even the fact that it's bad.
Yeah, exactly. And just like, I don't know, just pushing the train full bore ahead, you know.
My favorite.
What I've noticed on like a lot of my favorite comics, watching them in a live context, is like that they have a complete tool belt of resetters, you know. So like stuff that you're saying that is not necessarily so like when you go into a joke, there's an agreement between you and the audience that what I'm putting you through is going to be rewarded by the end of what I'm telling you, you know?
Yes.
And then you have like these like non-jokes that you put in between that could be passable as just nothing. You know what I mean? It could be passable as just like you're just talking and you're not necessarily goading laughter. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So those are like crowd management techniques where it feels a little bit more of a genuine connection between you, you know?
Yes.
And then you go into your jokes. Once you have reset the confidence of the audience, you go into the pre-written joke, you know? And hopefully you can disguise that and make it look like you're just talking.
Hi guys, it's Josh Grambo. Holy shit, Michael Isaacs. Michael Isaacs is a beast. He was so gracious with his time. I was pretty high during this conversation. He was nice enough to chat with me for damn near 2 hours. We chatted about Corona and nonsense, a bunch of stuff not comedy related, so obviously I had to cut this episode down to 2 episodes. 2 extremely condensed episodes. This episode was amazing. Fucking talking about comedy like music. Only Michael Isaacs would talk about some shit like that. If you're out of Denver and you don't know who he is, check him out on YouTube. He's always placing high in our yearly New Faces contest with Denver Comedy Works. So you can definitely find his sets on there. Fuck yeah. So if you're hearing my voice right now, thanks for listening, and make sure to check out Part 2, which is coming up right now. So go check out Michael Isaacs, talk about what he loves and hates about comedy and why he's so appreciative of it now that we've had it taken away. That's it. The show's called Comics with Grambo, and I'm out.